I received the instruction that I should do the Dao Jiao. Lyle, could you explain the Dao Jiao?
It's a form of soul rescue. This project is to help beings that have died in a state of war or in a state of terror. And it's very easy to get trapped there. We think, okay, you die and you move on. But a lot of people don't. They get stuck in this between world. I think Catholics call it limbo, where you're neither here nor there. And the vast majority haven't even figured out that they have died. So a lot of the work that Brigitte and I do is to give these beings a chance to get out of the mess and move on to better places. And this of course helps them, but it also helps the general energy. For example, in the Middle East, which is where we do a lot of our work, Brigitte does a lot of work there, it actually takes away a lot of the energy behind wars.
All right, here we are again today.
Here we are again.
We have a very special guest coming back to our podcast. Hi, Brigitte.
Hi, Manny. Hi.
Hey.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming to second episode with Brigitte. So you can go ahead and give an introduction.
Yeah,
briefly.
Well, I thought today we could, Brigitte and I, as you know, Mani, we work together very much. We thought today might be really good to look at, I suppose we could call it interdimensional communication and what's happening. But before we do that, I thought maybe we can give a little background to what Brigitte and I do and what's happening on the planet, which essentially is, I'll start with that point, that's probably the easiest one. If we look in astrological terms, the planet, and indeed the whole cosmos, is moving from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. And if we think back to the 60s and the hippie times, it was peace, love, and understanding. And that really is a lot about what the Aquarian age is. There's another way of looking at it that
what age was the 70s?
Well, that was the end of Piscean age. Aquarian age is really starting now. Well, just now, last year, this year. It's a long process. It's not like black and white on off. But yeah, the Piscean age was more about yang energy, masculine brain thinking. Aquarian energy is more the opposite, much more yin, harmony, etc. But there's another way of looking at it too, and that is that the cosmos, and more especially our planet, is moving from third dimension into fifth dimension. It's really saying the same thing, but just in different terminologies. Fifth dimension is really what we're describing here with the Aquarian age. It's an age of, it's heightened consciousness, awareness of the fact that we are spiritual beings here in physical bodies. And Brigitte, would you like to say something about fifth dimension?
He caught you off guard in the middle of explaining everything. It's like, okay, now you go.
I'm having, maybe, Lyle, you are more of the, let's say, like a new wave man. I am still the banker and real estate, three-dimensional. But what I know, I understand what you're asking for. We can call it fifth dimension, or we can call it. I maybe don't want to call it fifth dimension because I wonder whether I'm still in the fifth dimension. I've heard so much, and I have such a high expectation of the fifth dimension that I'm not really conscious that I'm there at this stage 100%. But I do have. Well, as you know, I do a lot of meditation, and when I do get into the very, very deep stillness, inside stillness, I can really feel that I'm drifting away from where I am with my. I feel like I'm not in my body anymore, or I'm not. I am being in another dimension, and then we can maybe probably call it fifth dimension. It is when I'm really very, very calm after really trying also consciously to be very, very calm. And I sit in a corner and or on my bed or in the meditation room here in the center. And I say, I want to really get into this space of entire peacefulness. And also when I'm in a moment where I'm feeling stressed and I say, no, I don't want to be in that stress or in that anger anymore, and I withdraw myself and I put myself in that state, then yes, I think really we can call it fifth dimension. Then I am in another dimension, a peaceful place. And I feel like, maybe we'll, if that answers.
Lovely. So I just wanted to mention these things, Marnie, because that to me is, it's just to set the scene, as it were, of what's happening on the larger picture. Brigitte and I both work with the Shen Foundation, and the mission of Shen Foundation is uplift humanity. And this is the work both Brigitte and I do, both on the physical level and on other dimensions. Our followers don't know, but Brigitte is sitting in the most beautiful building in the mountains of Switzerland, in a little village called Kippel. And this is the retreat center for the Shen Foundation. And just the work that we do on this physical level is really helping people to create a calm lifestyle in harmony with themselves, like doing what they need to be doing, and in harmony with the cosmos, which all sounds very nice and fluffy, but when you're there, it's very practical, hands-on stuff. Learning about the cycles of our daily life and how to really get the best out of our bodies by following them. And really, since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, we humans have had another time schedule put on us where we're expected to work physically hard, basically all our waking hours. And that is really not what we're built for. So if a person should come to Kippel here, they will experience how we lived before that. Essentially going up with the sun, though of course you got to have a bit of give and take with that. And then, early morning, do a little bit of training and stuff, breakfast. And then we've got the 2-hour slot, 9 to 11, which is really the best time to do hard work. And then a 2-hour break for lunch and a little siesta, a few hours after lunch, afternoon for working again, and then finishing by 5. Our bodies respond really well to that sort of cycle because that's how we lived when we were living in a more natural way. And so we're really helping people to really find that natural flow. And when you have that, then you get into the natural flow of the universe, your own inner routine, like be more in touch with the heart. And when you do that, then you're going to really find what your place is, why you're here, and not end up being a banker if you're supposed to be helping humankind, or not ending up being a chemist as I did when I was here to do other things.
We should have said no offense.
No offense to chemists and bankers, but wasn't my role.
Or doing the banking in another, in another way. Maybe probably banking is important, or having a financial system, but then do the financial system maybe more with more consciousness and less only profit oriented for already the people who have, yeah.
Yes, well said, Brigitte. It's how we do things too, very much. But what I was really meaning is when I feel also our society does not help us find why we're here on the planet. It's like we have things imposed on us. Okay, you come from a family of farmers. You're going to be a farmer, and that might not fit with what we feel inside. And part of the process that people experience at the retreat center here, when we get into our natural daily flow, it helps us to come more in touch with heart too, which I feel is an extremely important way to help people to live well.
True.
So that's the physical plane, and I'm here in Sweden, not doing very much at the moment, but what I do is we have online courses in this too when I'm doing them. We have some other priorities at the moment, so that's not really happening at the moment. But then one of the things that is more normal when we move into the fifth dimension is we realize that we have really great possibilities to communicate between dimensions too. And that's nothing new. It's always been there. But it's going to become more and more commonplace as we go on. And this is something that Brigitte and I work with a lot too. Actually doing the same job, uplifting humanity, but we're doing it in more on the energy level, not something that you see.
I was listening to this audio documentary, it's more like a audiobook, but it's documentary. So it's 11 episodes by Annika, I forgot her last name. And the subject of this documentary is consciousness. And after all, she had so many famous physicists, biologists, this and that, scientists, and she interviewed so many experts on the matter. And at the end of it, she came to the conclusion that the consciousness is the fundamental of our world, our universe, our reality. And the structures of consciousness can be different. Like we used to think, or we seem to think, that anything that has brain or has some type of life form, then that is conscious. It's a conscious experience to some level. Like human being have the highest level of supposedly highest level of conscious experience, and like dogs have like different level, and then it goes down to the fish, and we just think about it as a life creatures. But after all the research she has done, she came to the conclusion that she didn't prove it yet, but she came to the conclusion that consciousness is fundamental. And if we understand that, everything is conscious. It's just a different structure of consciousness. Like this microphone is conscious. And we don't have the map in our brain to understand it. Because we have the map to understand the green color.
Mm-hmm.
But the green color doesn't exist out there. This is our interpretation of the green that we interpret it with our brain. Inside, that happens inside our mind. That's, oh yeah, there is a green. And if we had the map, if we had the way to understand the universe or higher dimensions, then we could easily detect it and prove it. That, oh yeah, there is fifth dimension, sixth dimension, I don't know. It can go up to, I don't know,
Endless.
endless number. But that was interesting for me. That was like, all right, so if consciousness is fundamental and we just how do you say, decode the reality as much as we can, as much as we have the understanding, we have the map to, okay, yeah, this is computer, this is, and some people some people are very limited in their mapping out the reality. So as you said, they stick to three-dimensional, yeah, this, that, and nothing else. Like anything outside that is paranormal and mumbo jumbo for them, because they don't have the mapping system to like understand and realize that, have the realization that, okay, this is, everything is consciousness is fundamental. And then if we have that approach, then we can find a way, take a different approach and find a way to map the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, the so on and so forth.
You know what you're saying? I call it energy. Like everything has an energy. For me, consciousness is something even deeper. I think the consciousness, you can really, as a human, you can only really reach it when you are in a complete calmness. When you're in a hurry, or then the mind is going to kick in. I think the mind and the consciousness are two different things. And when you get really into a very, very deep calmness, even you feel like yourself, you're floating. I feel sometimes in certain moments where I really say, okay, now this, I feel, when I catch myself, oh, here I am again in the three-dimensional stuff, getting angry or being impulsive, because that's much of my character. I'm very impulsive Latino. Then I say, I just remind myself, oh, you don't want to be there. And then what I do a lot is I start breathing very, very slowly. I really very consciously breathe in into my stomach, counting to 6, and then breathe out again very slowly, and empty my stomach, counting to 8. And I very, really, on with the purpose to calm myself down, I breathe in and out. And then my whole system becomes much, much calmer. And then my thoughts also switch and become much more harmonious and more balanced. And then, maybe, and that's when I think I'm entering into this other dimension, because I will look at the situation with more compassion and say, oh, okay, this person, well, did this, but she didn't know, she doesn't have the life experience, or she didn't have the knowledge. You also do stuff that other people will say, how come she can do this? And, and how ignorant can she be? So the moment when I calm down, I forget about my ego of telling people off, and I become more calmer. And when I am very, very, very deep in that calmness, I even get solutions. And that's when I think it is like a manifestation and a synchronicity of things. I am become open to synchronicity for solutions of situations where I feel like I'm lost. I don't. And so that's like it's a superpower that I have discovered the past years by doing this work on myself, to calm myself down, to be connected with more the conscious things. Yeah. And what you were explaining, for me, I see it like everything has an energy. you go to a room and then you feel really good and light, and it's like the energy is good, and then the consciousness goes up. And then you go to other places, like you go to a tunnel which is dark, which is smelly, or and you feel like frightened because the energy is low. You can feel that it could be dangerous, and then you feel it, and that, yeah, probably it's also with the consciousness that you feel, oh, that's a more dangerous place to be, or
And I think if you listen to what Nikola Tesla has to say, or quantum physics, everything is, as you're saying, Brigitte, everything is energy, or everything is frequencies. And that to me is what the difference between third and fifth dimension is. It's just like different radio channels, but they're both there at the same time, but just with different levels of evolution, as it were.
I guess the way this switch between third dimension and fifth dimension is dissolving the ego. Because what she explains to me is like, yeah, if you just go with your ego,
Yeah.
go with your judgment, or like, not conscious, but like your awareness,
Yes.
then everything is like, oh, why did she do that? Or, you know what I mean? Because you cannot see past your own
Yeah.
feelings and experience. But if you dissolve the ego, then you connect to this like a vast field of existence, as you said, like different energy. You feel a different energy, and you become one with them. And if it's low, it lower your energy. If it's like a high energy, you raise with it. So I always have those feelings, but I didn't have the words to put them like, oh yeah, this is like that. But this woman, Annika, is such a bad thing that I don't remember her last name to give her the credit she deserves. Like, put it in words for me. Like, okay, yeah, it's fundamental. And we think we have conscious experiences, but we just have memories of them. And even the memory of our conscious experiences is not the same when we think about them, because we're not that person. Like, if you think about your childhood, like when you were 5, 10, whatever, you cannot experience the same experience, like your memory of it, because you're not that person anymore. Like, you like shifted and changed 100%. So that experience, we thought we have it. We thought this personal experience that we can carry on through our life, but it's gone. It's just a memory. And that just gives more power to the ego, because ego thinks like, no, I have a personal experience. This is just me. Mind, what about the mind and everything else? But it's just a different structure of consciousness that just experience through this field of consciousness, like human mind and individuals. And we're not individuals, but we like to experience things individually and thinking like, oh, this is my, like a, how do you say, isolated experience. So it's, nobody get to touch this.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just the field that you're in, and when you dissolve your ego, you can connect with it, and then you can, as you said, like have the map to see the fifth dimension, sixth dimension, because you are attached to it now. You're not separating yourself from it.
I think the most important thing is, if we say we're going to the fifth dimension, is to really be in the present, but be in the present without thoughts and without opinion and without wish and without, it's practicing to just be still. And for me, I have been learning this now for the past years. I would say since COVID, I've been doing it very, very consciously. Sometimes, you have like these scenarios in life where you think this has to be resolved, the other has to be resolved. And I tend to get into a panic because I have too many things. I'm a hyperactive. And so I have sometimes too many thoughts and opinions, and I want to do too many things at the same time. And I have a lot of expectations and of results. I wanna see results, and when I find myself like lost in my my overflow of thinking, just to sit down and just to say, okay, I am now off of everything, and I get detached of everything. I don't need that all what I think I need. I don't really need it. And I look, where am I now? What's the present moment? Then I can really get into a state of like lifting up. I really lift up, like going somewhere else. And nothing, I don't even realize that I'm still in this room, like I'm really flying off to something else. Something in another sphere, in another, and I have visions of colors. I do have always a lot of visions of colors. And in that space, sometimes when I come back after that, the solution is here. The solution is suddenly here. And it's very, very powerful. I'm myself shocked, because I just say, okay, I'm now fed up of all my thinking. I don't want to think about this problem and this expectation and about this thing I need to do and that thing I need to do. I take a time off. I go and sit on my meditation cushion, and I just do bright, I have a meditation which is called bright light meditation. And then I drift off. And when I come back, maybe quarter hour later, half an hour later, suddenly the solutions are here. So it's really to go completely in a different space. Then you could call it another dimension. You can call it you going into your deepest source of consciousness of yourself. I don't know whether it is going up or it's going down to my heart. There is just something going on, which is not, like being here where I'm, it's not in this world where I can feel my body. It's really my body. I don't feel it anymore. That's yeah.
Well, to
Sphere, the sphere of influence.
Yeah.
What?
Does that ring the bell? No, we were covering the Lacerto files. That's a long story, but
a previous podcast.
yes. And she mentioned the sphere of influence that we're not aware of, or we're not paying too much attention to it. So,
yeah, but that's what Brigitte's saying.
Yeah.
Really, it's like when you come into that state, you are in contact with other realms, which are here, but just on a different channel. Yeah, that's a good description, Brigitte. Thank you. Yeah. And that's really how we do our work in what's the starting point for doing our work in other dimensions, and something that anyone can do. But I think Brigitte and I are very privileged to have the opportunity to really influence what's happening on the planet on an energy level, and lift. In that Shen's mission is uplift humanity. We're really working with uplifting the whole planet in this process too. And one of the things that we've been asked to do since, I think, about October last year is to work with creating stability on the planet and the energy of the planet. And I'm guessing this is really as a balance point to the political instability that we have here right now, thanks to certain people, which we won't name, but I mean it's just the process the world's going through. So that's one of the projects that Brigitte and I work on, apart from the physical we do with people, is that on a daily basis work with just a form of chanting and visualizing to keep things stable, to make the to make the Aquarian age a reality. You know.
I have a question
Yes.
for you, Brigitte. How did you first react to this narrative, this practice? Like when first was explained to you, like it works like this, and you need to do this,
You know,
and you
I'm
connect or you
really
change the
told to
energy.
do. The first time I really noticed that. So Mani, I was brought up Catholic, and I used to go. I think I explained that already the last podcast, that I used to go to church, and I was always, since a little child, I would always like pray, pray to God, pray to Mother Mary for things, and then I got into the business world, and I lost that whole thing. And now, after I had cancer, and after that 4-stage cancer, I met Dr. Guo Bisong, and she told so I used to go to retreats to her center in Scotland, and we would be 4 days doing 4 times for health. You know what we are teaching now here, this to getting really slowing down, a lot of sleeping, because I was there. I had my company, real estate company. So I would be really drained out when I would arrive at her center. And so I would sleep a lot. And after the 4th day, I could really feel like my body starting to float, because we were just consciously making breaks at the right moment, and then doing all these meditations and just calming down our energy, and like a really big healing interior process. And then I was starting to feel like that my body's starting to fly. And when we would do the meditations, she would always ask us, how do you feel? And did you have visions? And then I said, yeah, I had visions. When she asked me, did you have visions? I said, how does she know I had visions? And then she explained the visions. And I would see colors, and I would see figures, or I would see events, I would see really bright light, a lot, just you see light, lot of light. And when I opened my eyes, we were in a dark Scotland. It's like, wow, where does light come from? This is crazy. How can I just see so much light, but the reality where I am physically is actually being very dark? So that's when I started, saying, my God, this is crazy. What's going on? And then once I was in a retreat, solstice retreat in winter. So there we would sleep 56 hours, like hibernation. Mm-hmm. And then after 2 days, after 20 hours, I had this vision of Mother Mary, but I could really see her. I can see her now also. I could really see her coming and just showing herself very, very, very strong. And I was like saying, oh, I'm getting crazy now. I'm getting crazy. This is too much, too much of sleeping and being by myself, that I have now these visions. And then Bisong said, well, yes, you are probably connected with Mother Mary, because you have this spirituality with her. And why don't you start talking to her and ask her for things, for solutions and for questions you have? And that's when I started really doing that. And I started writing down the messages that she's giving to me. And the questions I was asking. So maybe it's Mother Mary, maybe it's my deepest consciousness, maybe it's the 5th dimension. I can't tell you what it is. You can just put all the names on it, what you want. But there is a very, very, we are able to enter into a very, very different energy, which we cannot explain where it comes from, and where solutions can come and answers can come. That's how I actually learned. And that's how I realized, oh my God, I don't need to go to the church and pray. And also a thing on the church, what I do not like, Bisong always said, to be able to connect with the universe, you have to be sitting straight. And in the church, when we pray, we always have to be like this, we always have to put the head down. And when I put the head down, I feel I'm guilty and I have to say, excuse me for every bad thing I have done. But now what I liked with Bisogna was, you are straight and you connect with up. You just ask whoever you want to ask. You can ask spirits, you can ask other, you can speak to Buddha, you can speak to Allah, you can speak to Jesus, you can speak to Mother Mary, you can speak to, then gathering with the other people in these retreats, I realized that everybody has another spiritual teacher, that he's working with. And I said, oh, wow. And so each person had another teacher. I said, oh, yeah, why not, Why not we ask different people, why not we get connected with people with the speciality of what they have achieved. Like Mother Mary is a mother, so I'm a mother, so I always want to have questions about how to behave like a mother for my kids, for my company, for the project, for humanity. But then when you have more strategic questions, I know that Lyle works with Guangdong, and I never heard of Guangdong before, but he will probably explain later on. But so now, since this year, I am also asking other spiritual entities who are not here on Earth anymore, but who had a function on Earth, which was important. And I ask them for solutions, and I'm lost because I have the impression I don't find a solution. No human can, in the third dimension, is being able to find me the solution to my problem. So why don't I ask up there, and that's where I think suddenly synchronicities are arriving, manifestations are realizing. And I said, wow, we have such a power to connect with something else which we are not using. And we can use that to grow,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Lyle.
off, Brigitte.
I think I needed to
It's
say,
very good.
please go.
I just wanted to say on that's what you're describing to me is really an essential part of what fifth dimension life is. That we're just not here on the physical world, but we interconnect with other ones too, on a normal daily way, as you and I experience already, Brigitte. And it's something we've all got now. We all have our own team of guides or angels, as people call them, and we all have the ability to connect with them, and they're there to support us. And I think it's such a waste that people don't utilize that, and then that opens up maybe something we haven't experienced a lot yet, but that's a doorway to all sorts of different beings and dimensions. And I think it's very exciting. That the huge possibilities for us. Actually, Brigitte, one thing that happened to Mani and I and Mimi, that in one of the first podcasts we did, a being actually came through called Mahatma to say that he's here to support this work too, which was it was lovely.
I didn't release
Was
that
it Mahatma
today.
Gandhi?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that was, but that's what his name was. But Mani, sorry, you said something. I cut you off.
Yeah, it was a very strange experience because I haven't had any of those experiences. I had out of body experiences, but it was just like it's still in the physical realm. So that day we were just talking, and we had some lights on the table, like a very simple lights that works with batteries. So they start flickering, and I was like, maybe they're out of battery. And I was like, I hope it doesn't destroy the footage, like flickering in my face with lights. But then it stopped. One of them was on, one of them totally off. And I saw Lyle like getting like, you know, little
Bit woo woo.
like how do you say, little,
Going into trance.
yes, like that. And I was like, are you okay? And while camera was running, and he pointed behind me to the corner, and I was like, well, what's there? There's nothing behind me. And it's like, there's a light coming. I was like, okay. And suddenly it was like this trance, and he was channeling a being, and the light was flickering again. And I didn't take it serious. I was like, no, I know. Like my conscious mind, it was like, it's just a battery in the lights, and I know. But after the thing was done, and he was channeling the being, and I was asking questions, and that the entity was answering, and this and that. And after it was done, and it was gone, the lights came on again. So it wasn't batteries. It wasn't any problem with the batteries. And I don't know. That was the experience that I had. Anything paranormal that. But I experienced things under influence of drugs. So like when I was 16, I had MDMA experience. I had ecstasy, and like got to this realm that things were different. Like I could see like a different frequency of existence, reality. So everything was alive. The the clothes in my closet will move in and out. Everything was alive, and it was weird. I wasn't like freaking out because I knew I supposed to see things a little different, but then it gives me the perspective that this sober conscious mind that I always like carry around with the knowledge that I have about existence, it's not all there is. Things can be different, and we don't see them that way because we don't have the interpreters to like translate for our mind to see things the way they are, and we see a very narrow window of light, and we hear a very narrow frequency of sound. So like almost like we are like in this bubble that goes through this crazy reality, that there is layers, dimensions, dimensions.
Oh.
It's like, and we cannot decipher it. So yeah, that was this experience was, I was sober, so I cannot blame it on I was under influence of anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I didn't release the footage. I kept it. I didn't release that episode.
Yes. But we can even go a step further, this ability to go into these states, or in this other dimension, gives us also the possibility to not only just get information for our well-being. I was just always telling you that I was only just looking, for my solutions and for my problems, but we have the ability also to do this work for humanity. And since we are right now in a moment where I don't know whether everybody feels like that, but a lot of turmoil, whether it's nature or political situations, wars, energy, volcanoes erupting, earthquakes happening. So with Lyle, we are always collaborating. Also now asking, our guides, like I'm asking Mother Mary, what do we need to do to help humanity to go through these struggles, maybe in a less harsh way, or if we need to do it, well, we have to do it. And that's when we started in October working a little bit also on a universal way, you know, on a universal way to do this work of healing. Maybe Lyle, I'll give you the word to explain more, because I learned a lot
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, this is this is what we just touched on before, you know, that priority now for us is continuing with this work to keep the energy on the planet stable. And that's more, when I'm talking this, I'm more related to on the human level, but it also affects the physical planet too. And partly because I'm diverging here now into two other projects that you touched on, Brigitte. My background is as a landscape designer. I've also worked a lot in the architectural field and all that. And I have been asked to do a couple of other projects using those skills to visualize. It seems that the beings that we work with, they're on a different level, of course, a different frequency, different dimension, whatever you call it. But they don't necessarily operate well in our physical dimension. So our role is really a link between the two. And the first thing I got asked to do, which I think it was in the year 2020, was to establish it, like, you know how our bodies have acupuncture points, and we have very specific points that are more important than others. So does the planet. So I got asked to help create an energy inflow point. I call them energy needles onto the Earth's acupuncture points. And there are 17 of them. And I was asked to just visualize it's like a pillar of light coming in on these points around the planet. And their purpose is to be like a flow of higher frequency energy, which in effect is creating the fifth dimension frequency through the whole planet on the physical plane. So my role there was as a link between these guys who are responsible for the energy and the physical planet. But all my job was quite easy, really. It was just visualize these things. And so I got taken around to all these points on the planet and said, okay, this one is going to be pale blue. That one's violet. It's this big, it's this deep, etc. And periodically I will go around with these guys and just kind of update them, upgrade these points to see how the energy's flowing. Is the color okay? The volume, etc. And make changes. Which to me is really exciting. It sounds like science fiction, but when we're doing it, it's kind of normal. It's just what's there to do. And there was a lesser project last year. I don't know if you remember that Santorini was at the point of blowing up. So I got asked to step in and help with the project there. Apparently, just around Santorini, there are two continental plates meeting, the African plate and the European one. And so my job was to create what looked like black metal pipes going through from the sky about 300 meters up through the sea and several kilometers down into the earth. And then their role was, again, like a channel of energy to soften the friction between the plates, to lessen the chance of a large earthquake happening. And they stopped, I'm very glad to say. And at the same time, there was a similar thing happening in the Mariana Trench off the Philippines. I got shown a picture that the plates there are very, very stressed. And there's a possibility of a meteor coming later this year that could hit just that point And if there's too much energy there, then it would have created a quite massive plate shift. So we're never going to know, because if it doesn't happen, well, then we've succeeded. But then, you know, it's just sort of a...
Now we're going to know.
Well, if the Philippines go under, we didn't do too well.
Yeah. So what about you, Brigitte? Do you have the similar tasks or missions?
Yes, in another way.
Would you like to
Experience,
get into it?
Oh my God, this is crazy. Was actually during COVID, there was a huge hurricane crossing Miami, and I have a lot of family members there and cousins, and also from my sister-in-law, the parents, and so I did a lot of meditation and bright light in that region for those during that period where I knew that hurricane was just flying over. I sat on my bed. It was COVID. I didn't have much better to do, so I just felt it was important, and I was worried about my family members, and I did this bright light meditation, and the hurricane was going to go through, a couple of half an hour before they were, you could really say it was going to straight through where were living, and both families. And then the next day I asked him, how are you doing? And then they said, no, I don't know. And from one, my cousin, they said, I don't know what happened, but it went again back to the sea. So it didn't come. And about my other family member, I had completely forgotten, and I met them. I didn't even ask. I said, okay. I was glad. No news, good news. Nobody said something happened. I said, okay, good. So maybe it was false alarm, or so. I was too worried, and there was no impact, and it's good. And then I'm on Christmas, and the mother of my sister-in-law tells me, oh, we had this hurricane, and we watched like the building next to us almost blew up, the roof went off, and you can't imagine the big mess that happened, and we had nothing happened to our house. So there were like these two, both were actually in danger, and both were. So I thought, oh my God, is this maybe because I helped or not? And again, my ego, I don't want to be too much think that I'm so powerful to be something. So I did not give it too much of an importance. But now this, I keep on doing that work, and I see a lot of things happening. And so I'm having... So I ask now Mother Mary, what do I need to do? And during the Gaza war, when there was, and then when they were also attacking, Lebanon was being very strongly attacked. I received the instruction that I should do the Dao Jiao. Lyle, could you explain the Dao Jiao?
Yeah, I was just hoping you would mention that, because this is a project. It's a project that Brigitte and I do together, or not together, but we do the same project in our own ways. It's a form of soul rescue, which I feel is really important on many levels, but because the theme of our work is upgrading humanity, this project is to help beings that have died in a state of war or in a state of terror. And it's very easy to get trapped there. We think, okay, you die and you move on. But a lot of people don't. They get stuck in this between world. I think Catholics call it limbo, where you're neither here nor there. And the vast majority haven't even figured out that they have died. So a lot of the work that Brigitte and I do is to give these beings a chance to get out of the mess and move on to better places. And this, of course, helps them. but it also helps the general energy. For example, in the Middle East, which is where we do a lot of our work, or Brigitte does a lot of work there, it actually takes away a lot of the energy behind wars. Because, for example, in Gaza, I mean, we haven't cleaned up Gaza, I'm afraid, yet, but this is a long-term project. But, for example, if a war starts, like at Gaza, then these beings who are in this kind of lost state, they see something happening they recognize, and they will be drawn to that situation and kind of add to the energy of war, the aggression of it. In the same way that alcoholics easily attract dead alcoholics, and makes their situation even worse. So, and you know, many levels of reasons why we do this work, but one of the main ones is just to lift the spirits of the planet, lift the energy of the planet, so we can move on, and so that these poor beings who have been stuck there forever sometimes, can move on and have a better life too.
Yeah.
You have your hands busy.
Oh man, we do. Yes. Well, just Middle East, we got asked to set up a little sanctuary there in the next dimension up, and it's in Jerusalem. But if you look back historically, there's always been trouble there. So.
And why is that?
I really don't know.
Is it because the first cities and civilization was there, Mesopotamia?
It's possible, but what I know of energy inflow, that point where Temple Mount is now, in the past has been an inflow point of energy. And I think somehow it's got misused.
What temple?
Temple Mount in Jerusalem. It's this site which is holy for Jewish people, Christians, and Muslims alike. So it has in the past been an extremely powerful energy point. It's not one, and it wasn't one anymore, but just recently we're starting to reestablish it as an energy point. But I mean, it's just energy coming in, so you can use it for good or bad, And I just feel, unfortunately, it's been twisted into negative energy. So that's my opinion of it. I'm sure there are other factors as well, But it would be lovely to see peace in the Middle East, as a part of fifth dimension coming into
across the world
planet.
well.
Of course, across the world, but this has always been a hot point, and I know especially Brigitte has really been working on this project now for a while, and it can only help.
Yes.
But I know when we started this, we were told it's a long-term project. It could take many, many years.
Yes. Mani, I am a very skeptical person, and to hear me talk about this, and I always think, oh my God, you're getting crazy. But yeah, as when I was told to do this this Dao, we call it Dao Chao on Mount in Jerusalem. So when I do these meditations, I feel like I am being completely drugged. My body becomes, I really fly off completely. And I can feel also all these, I could feel something very, very, very strong is happening. Energy-wise, it's all the energy, very, very, very strong energy. And sometimes I have to yawn a lot, or I'm crying, or then I see the colors. In Jerusalem, I see a lot of red. Always very, and a very, very strong thing that when I go into this, when I ask always, what should I do? And then when I feel like yes, I have the permission. I can do something for that for Mount Jerusalem. And I start my bright light meditation, and then I do the Dao Jiao, and I ask for the spiritual guides to join me and help me. And then I ask all the flying spirits who are suffering, who want to fly off, to come. And I ask how many are gonna come, how many souls are gonna come which are trapped there. And the amounts are just horrendous. There are horrendous amounts, which I was like, this is crazy. And so I get the amount, but at that very moment, I can feel the energy of all these souls coming. It's really something completely crazy. And then I sit there, and until I feel like they can lift up to another dimension, I can feel also that dimension. My body starts shaking. So there is a reaction, it's not that one day it's like this, the other day it's like that. And it's really always the same things I'm feeling with my body. And then I think there is something is happening. I don't know whether I'm giving any result or not, but there's something happening which I never knew that I could feel with my body and with my yeah. That's
Why I'm really enthusiastic to share these things, which we haven't really before with anyone, is because I feel that this point now, I mean, this year, these months that we're in, it seems a really and significant transition time for us. And if you just look what's happening politically around the planet, that to me is kind of a reflection of it. It's pretty scary times. And I feel that we really all need to do our bit to kind of push things towards a better world. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to do what Brigitte and I are doing. We have been given some pretty special opportunities here. But doing something simple like acting with unconditional love, that is an amazing thing to do in healing the planet, lifting the energy. Because Taoists have a concept of microcosm is macrocosm. So, and there's a little story like, I can't remember the exact words, a butterfly flaps its wings and there's a storm on the other side of the planet. That's a little symbolic thing, obviously, but one little act that we do of kindness really matters for the whole consciousness of everything. So that's really what I would like to just say to people, be love. Love is really the core. And I don't mean romantic love and all that stuff. That's something else. Unconditional love is... How do you describe unconditional love? I lost it a bit there. It's loving without judging. Loving without expectations.
And even let go out of love, even though you would love to hold.
Yes.
It's also unconditional love.
we have this cat at home called Liliman, and he's my love guru. He is amazing. Anyone that comes in the house, he'll come up to them. You have to pick him up, and he's going to kiss you and lick you until you're loved enough. And he does it to everyone without exception. He doesn't have likes and dislikes. And I think we need to be more like the cat. Seriously, not just to ourselves, but to others, to the whole of life. And to me, that is a profound thing that everyone can do. But I also wanted to talk about these things we're doing because it's going to become more and more normal. Maybe not what Brigitte and I do with soul healing and all that. But all sorts of opportunities are there, and it's going to be every day, or it's becoming every day already, I mean, look at us. We're just normal blokes leading life, and all of a sudden all this stuff opens up for us, And as you said, Brigitte, you were a pretty skeptical character, so
Still, I don't.
it's all there. I've had my moments of skepticism too, believe me, but And the other thing I want to say to people is listen to your heart. Go from that. And then it's going to help have less stress on the planet, just doing that, and that's what we need less of is stress and more harmony. That's why we have the center here, to help people have a harmonious life, create less stress pollution on the planet, Yeah, that's really what I felt I would like us to share today, just to open people's eyes to what's going on and possibilities, and we're all a part of it, and all have our place, our place and our thing to do.
Yeah. It sounds very abstract, and it is abstract.
It is.
It is very invigorating when you can get into this space of peacefulness somehow, your peace to you. Mm-hmm. And then if you, even if nothing, I'm not making any impact in Jerusalem, let's say I'm not, at least I try what I can do, it doesn't harm anybody. I'm not harming.
Yeah.
I'm not harming, but at least when I see what's going on in Gaza, and I can say, okay, I'm sending bright light, I'm helping. I cannot go there physically and help. I cannot go and negotiate for peace. But I can send them bright light. I can send bright light also to the politicians, for them to calm down and look what's good for humanity. We can just embrace everyone. Embrace everyone and just give the love, as you say, Lyle. Just be love in our thoughts, in our actions.
That's enough, yeah. Isn't it really?
Let's end on that.
Okay. Thank you, Brigitte. Thank
you
Marnie.
so much for such an intriguing conversation again, Brigitte.
I totally agree with you.
Thank you so much.
But then, maybe we have no effect, we think, but we're doing it. And so, voila.
And you guys, if you want to watch that footage that I was talking about with me and Lyle in that episode, comment. I might release it for you guys. Thank you for watching.